Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Exchange by Evolution. I'm your host, Ritesh, and today we've got an amazing topic for you based on hiring in marketing. I have an amazing guest with me, Charles T, the CEO and founder of T3E Global. And Mr. Charles, could you please go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, T3E Global, we're actually a travel, tourism, hospitality consultancy, but we also train people in the areas of customer service. And also, of course, my forte is marketing. So I'm a marketing major. I've actually studied marketing for my master's degree, and I'm a very avid marketer. Yeah, and I teach marketing for several universities at the moment. And I'm also still practicing marketing because I go into companies and help them to look at marketing problems or even do audits on their marketing. So that's what I do. And we've been around for almost 15 years now. That's been quite some time. But prior to that, I was actually running companies that were international, global. Yeah, I ran the media hotel group out of the Asian office in Singapore, but I had an office in Spain. And I was also part of Millennium and Copcon Hotel Group that has several hotels in Singapore. So I had two vice president roles, and I was senior vice president in a owning company for Malaysian leisure products. Yeah? So this is my area, very good.
Okay, brilliant. So as we can see, obviously Charles here has a bunch of extensive knowledge in the topic, as well as the industry as a whole. Now, the whole purpose of this podcast for today, like we mentioned, it is based on hiring and marketing. We're going to be going through the different things that you should know, getting into the industry, getting into the field, things that probably you haven't heard of before, as well as any do's and don'ts. So, just to start off, especially now going into a more post-COVID sort of world, what would you say is the impact that marketing has now, especially with digitalization? How important is it for firms, and why should they incorporate this or make it an integral part of their company?
Okay, I think it's a very good thing to think about marketing at this time because marketing means different things to different people at this stage. Different companies are at different stages of their business recovery. Some of them are having more business than they need, right? So, the hotels, for example, are reporting that they just can't handle the volume. Last week was one where we had F1 and all that. Ridiculous demands, right? So there are people with high demands, and those people who are still trying to get back to business. But back to business is not back to business as it was before COVID, right? So everybody knows that. So what's the new business? So for me, what I think that companies should do after this stage is to reevaluate where they were and firstly go back to see those customers they serve would still be the customers they want to serve. Because, there could be a post-COVID customer who just came out of the woodwork. You didn't know they were there, they came out. Right? And if they are the people you're serving, is your marketing reaching them the way it should? Do you have to reposition? Do you have to reorganize your communication? And that's really something that many marketers say, same old. Done it before, do it again. No. Okay, if you do that, you're doomed to fail. The customer journey has changed. A lot of things have gone digital. We're all gone onto an online economy, and people who are perhaps patient in the past, no longer patient. They want it. Instant gratification. Because COVID showed them that if you wait too long, maybe it will not happen. Yeah? So people like traveling are coming back with what they call revenge travel. Yeah, they're spending $5-star dollars, which in the past they would save for 2-3 trips. Now just blow it. That's we're seeing that happen.
Right.
Very encouraging.
Okay, so I guess obviously this whole post-COVID environment now, a lot of change has taken place in marketing, like you said, or at least it needs to take place more so now than ever, right? But what we've also noticed with this, before we get into the actual stage of hiring, one thing that has actually taken place, which a lot of people would probably need to know now, is this whole merge with sales, right, in marketing. Marketing is no longer as core as it was before, and sales being its own department. It sort of seems to have merged more so now. What would be your thoughts on how it works now?
Okay, my thoughts are that marketing has always in the past separated themselves. They're elitists. They always think they're higher than the salespeople. And I've been a salesman before, right? I spent most of my career in the early days as a salesperson. But the salesperson today is a smarter, more dynamic, more targeted salesperson. So the job of marketing is to help sales to be able to close the deals. And if marketing is not doing that and sales is getting deals on their own, then we don't need marketing. I'm sorry to say that But bye-bye marketing because you're not doing your job. Your job is to communicate the product or the service so that when the salesperson comes in, half the battle is won. They only have to go and refine. And sales is not about pushing people to buy. It's gone. Those days are over, right? The fast-talking salesman, sleazy salesman who comes and pushes products to you, that's gone. The salesman of today is actually your friend. He's there to help you buy. So as I see it, the salesman is actually your best confidant because they make you a proposition that helps you. And that should be it. And that's actually marketing's job to first prime the ground so that people have that message and the salesperson come in and refine.
Right, okay, I see. And then now, obviously, we get into the point where how you just mentioned the different types of people that are within sales, different types of people that are there within marketing, and essentially what their skill sets should be and how they should be complementing each other.
Okay, yeah. So on that note, Ritesh, the only thing that marketing has to remember is that the sales team is their customers, right? So they are there to serve them, right? And not to do their own fun things, fun and games and fuel their ego. That used to be the case in the past, right? When they very big budgets and big egos and all that. So sales today is saying, okay, where's the product that we need that is going to the market? How are you going to get it? So they have to be more accountable. So what I'm saying is that the salespeople are now holding marketing to be more accountable. They can be friends, for sure. And the way is for marketing to understand sales. They have to go through the customer journey proposition to know when it comes to consideration and final purchase, what the pain points are, right? So that they can help to say, okay, where are you having problems with? What is not coming through? Right. Where is marketing failing you? And if that's the case, they know they can work on it, they'll be the best.
Right. And so now obviously we get into the whole actual topic of the hiring aspects within marketing. Because now obviously with all the changes, there's going to be a whole new need for different types of skills. There's a lot of trends to cover. Obviously we also know that marketing has changed where it's no longer that typical stereotype of just needing to be creative, right? We're going just one step before that, if anything, engaging with prospects within the marketing industry or those wanting to get into the marketing industry. What is it that the prospect should be looking out for on the companies?
Okay, so a prospective marketing person should be looking for a company that has this ability to look broader. Yeah, don't go into a company that just says, okay, we're only here to do this part. You should expect that a company should give you the full picture. You can't work with just one snapshot. Many companies today say, we're just hiring Ritesh just for this, keep to this. No, because if that's all you do, you can't see the full picture. So what you need to do as a prospective hire is to ask questions, do a lot of research, and see yourself. You can be critical of the company that you join in the terms of where you could see potential lapses, gaps, weaknesses.
Right.
That would make you a much more relevant person to hire, because we're not hiring marketing to come in to do the things that we say you should do. You should come in with your ideas as well, and perhaps even challenges. Right. And that's what I think I would be looking for. All that would be something.
And would you be someone to look at the qualification that they've come out of from university, or are you going to be looking more at someone who's more experienced with what they've done?
I think it's a balance of the two. They have to perhaps have some good credentials. Yeah? So academic results themselves do not actually fuel the whole thing. Right? It just says that they're sound with their knowledge and frameworks and concepts. But at the end of the day, they have to be savvy. They have to be going out to see things and then realize how it links. So it's about a real world. One of our company's mantras is real world solutions. So we're not talking about the Harvard side MBA class case studies. We're actually going down dirty. And in the past, there's always been success stories. No, I would like my guys to go and look at failures, see what the failures are, and how these people come back. Because when they come back stronger, they come back more clearer and more determined. And we're looking for resilience. We're not looking for people who don't fail. Okay? People must fail. I failed in some of my in the past, right? Having lofty ideas. Sometimes it's actually the idea actually works just ahead of its time. Right? So I've been accused of being too early.
But at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? It's all about testing your environment, testing your knowledge or your abilities within the environment you're in at that time. And I guess marketing is very much so about adaptability to all of that.
Very much so.
So now, obviously, when we go into the fact that experience is definitely needed, qualifications would be a very nice thing to also have. As you said, a good balance. But also, marketing seems to have, I would say, to some extent, it's sort of switched a little bit where now you need more soft skills as opposed to just your hard skills, only because there's a lot more change management that goes into marketing.
Yeah. I think what is happening is that people are no longer buying products. They're buying the experience. And if you know what experiences are, it always touches the heart, what we call the hedonic, right? Your emotions, all your feelings, your sentiments, and also your past. How did you get to where you are? So if you understand that as a marketer, what we're talking about, and this word has been bandied around, customer journey, it is still very valid. It's where the customer comes from and how they journey. Every one of us journeys differently because of our different backgrounds. So marketing today needs to touch the heart. And to be able to touch the heart, there are different types of touch points, right? And experiences are very hard to steal away. So once I create for you, Ritesh, a wonderful experiences we've had with meeting each other, and you will come back to me, hey, Mr. Charles, what's happening, man? No, because you feel comfortable. And that's what marketing has to do to make it comfortable for the customer. Come back, and the salesperson then closes the deal and then collects.
It's all about building the relationship.
Building a relationship, creating the experience, giving people memories. At the end of the day, memories are hard to put a price to. How do you price it? Having a new child, having a new car, having a new relationship, new job. Those memories stay with you.
Right.
And that's what you need.
And in your own words and your own experience with what you've seen here, what would you state, again, I think in this case, it's a very generic question, what would you state would be, the top 3 soft skills that will probably be looked out for specific to someone in marketing?
Okay, the first thing is always empathy, right? Like I say, you have to walk the journey, walk in someone's shoes, okay? So you must have empathy, and following empathy is sincerity. You can walk in someone's shoes, but you're not sincere, right? So if you know that you want to walk in someone's shoes, be as close to that person as you can, right? Be as close to that person's journey as you can. So empathy, sincerity, and of course, that pops out with honesty. So if you feel, sorry, mate, I'm sorry, I just missed that. And then people will accept it.
Okay, and when obviously with this whole being the main segment of the soft skills segment, where essentially that goes into the culture setting of the company as well,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily just about selling the product or service, but also how you fit well with your team.
Yeah.
So what would you say is what companies look out for when it comes to a culture setting for marketing or even
I believe the best company culture that a marketing organization or a company that focuses a lot on marketing and selling should have is to have people who are willing to be incorporating their diverse backgrounds, right? So we have to accept people with different personalities, different personas, because they enrich the environment. Of course, you can make the environment very volatile, but at the end of the day, a good leader manages all this to try and find and extract the best they can.
Right.
So what I'm saying is the culture should be one where people should be allowed to engage and have robust discussions, meaning that someone will scream and shout at each other. At the end of the day, work is over, we're downstairs having a beer, right? Because that would be then that acceptance of the fact that we're just fine because we want the best for the company. We want the best for the outcome for the company. And so if they have that culture and they encourage that culture and feed that culture, they will get good people coming.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that in terms of my own experience so far. I'm still a junior in the industry. As someone who's gone into marketing, I know where my passion lies and I know what it is that I need to do. But my main experience has lied in B2C marketing, right? This is my first real B2B experience here. And I can already say within 3 months with Evolution here, I'm learning a lot already in terms of how it works to build a relationship, not only obviously with the prospective clients that you will have, but also with your own peers and your own colleagues who are doing sales. How can you best help them? I think that's something that, whilst it obviously is a task on its own, what helps is the support I get within that culture setting. Everyone is very open to having those discussions, like you had said. Whether it ends up being a debate or an argument or anything, it's all healthy at the end of the day. And I can't say anything bad about the fact that Fridays we end up like going out down to the pub just downstairs and we have a good time. That's what it should be at the end of the day. You should be looking forward to going in to do what you love and just always looking forward to it without a moment of doubt.
Yeah. And on that note, especially if I could just indulge myself, there are different companies with different cultures, right? I've done a lot of startups, I set up a company called What If, in the Asian Pacific area, I started Zuji. And these companies, I mean, when you have a startup culture, I'm very encouraged by the fact that because you're very resource, type, you do a lot of things, right? And so people who are being hired for marketing should not reject companies that are in startup. Because in startup, you learn a lot of things. Some of it is not marketing, it's operations, whatever. So what I'm saying is that don't just go to the MNCs and all that. MNCs sometimes have a very process structured. So KPIs are KPIs. You have to deliver, and the moment you go in, you fit into a box, right? And you're saying, no, the companies like Meta and all that, no, they're more for, no, they are process, okay? So I'm just saying that I'm putting a pitch out for the startups. I love SMEs. I love the SME culture of defining yourself, right? So we've seen the people like Grab and all that coming out of that, becoming unicorns. Razer is a unicorn, right? So what's the nature of these people, right? Yeah, even one championship, Judge started from the idea of wanting to play sports. He's a unicorn as well, right? So they make the big bucks, not because of it, because of the way that they are prepared to explain.
Right, and I mean, I have to ask as well, being someone who is a marketer for, yes, we are a recruitment company as Evolution, but we specialize within the tech industry. Marketing within the tech industry, how do you perceive that to be different from other industries?
Okay, marketing within the tech, because it's largely B2B, right? And you said, right? So how does a business help the business? Firstly, understand your B, your other customer, who's a business, how they operate. If you don't understand the business, how can you business? How can you market? Right? At the end of the day, their customer is your customer. Because their success is dependent on them getting the customer to feed them that feeds you. Right? So if you don't get that right, out. Okay? So technology, I'm a big digital fan in sense of that digital must make sense. And I've seen incidences where the digitalization of a company is screwed up because they don't understand that it's trendy. Everybody wants to do it. Let's digitize. And then they leave the customer. This customer is still not ready. Yeah, so you have to get into that. So people who can read data. So who am I looking for today? Right? So if you're asking, am I going to hire you? Yes. Right? Because you can read data, you understand analytics, you know the value of the data that's coming in that you can assess. But the data itself is just what it is. It's data. The technology itself means that you can check. It's just at the end of the day, somebody who makes all of this work has to have the sensibility to still have what they call human technology, right? You still have to be human to know how to think, how to act. And people are not rational. They will respond to you and you can touch them in ways, as I said, that are meaningful to them, right? Not to you. It's not what you want to do, it's what they want to do, right? So businesses are the same. A business was, I've been very loyal to many of my vendors in the past. And some of them over the years with very good friends because they see me not as a customer that pays their bills, but as a person who they know has every interest to also help them. So I don't only work with my vendors, I also act as a mentor.
Right. Okay. And then obviously if we go back to the prospect side here in terms of essentially how they should position themselves to get to this point, like how you just mentioned, in terms of their understanding and ability to read data, use data, see how they can get to those touch points. What is it specifically that they should be working on here?
Okay, what you should have is, I always feel is proper, is to have what we call a T-based sort of structure. Right? So you have to have broad skills in different areas. You have a bit of creativity, play around, experiment, run a few. So you must have the ability to be social, because that part, as a good marketer, regardless whether you're introverted or not, you must understand the social part.
Right.
People are social animals, right? So if you actually have a social component on your own, whether you're an artist, you're a runner, you're a sports person, bring that into your job. Look at it as a competition, as a game. So you bring that in with the heart, the other skills, and of course you know how to talk to people, communicate well, keep on improving the way you communicate. Talk across different levels of people at different pace, right? So being able to be sensitive to all those things, and then the hard skills, understanding data, trying to find also means to then interpret data for your client, who is then going to be using what you know to do the work, right? And one of my best mantras, which is a quote from Leonardo da Vinci, is that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I said this to my students yesterday in class, where I teach it. And I say sometimes we make things so complex. Right? At the end of the day, people don't need all these gadgets. They only need something that gets the job done and get it done in a perhaps now fun way. So if I can make it fun for you,
Fair enough. And I think what goes in line with this was probably the most important thing that a lot of people want to know: the do's and don'ts. Right? What are the do's and don'ts when you're in that industry, when you've landed your job?
one of the do's and don'ts, and I learned this very quickly, is that remain humble. That's the do, right? Because you can never stop learning. Every day is a learning experience. And learning is not only in the office, it's learning in the everyday. Seeing the bus driver, seeing the coffee shop uncle, and you learn because some of them have lots to teach you and they are better teachers than any of your PhDs or your professors in the university. So what I'm saying is that because you're a marketer, every time you see, of course, you don't want your brain overworking, but always see different things people are doing that allows you that. So that's one. Okay. So the other do is that do remain focused, right? Because sometimes we get too ambitious. And I know it sounds like a contradiction. Earlier I said broad skills and all that. No, the broad skills are there to bring you into a focus. So T-shape means that you're broad and then you go deep. The more you go deep, own a space. So if you're the guru of marketing, data, analytics, be the one. Be the subject matter. Be the one people come to. Be the creative expert. Be the one who interprets the data. And then you have value. Because the moment you can go deep, people feel that, hey, I have to come to you. So you own a space that you are comfortable with. The third do is that you learn that in the other departments, they all have their priorities and there will always be differences. But at the end of the day, there are also similarities. Find the similarities, and this is the best way you can work. Find what works for others so that they can work well with you. So don't, for example, be dishonest. Yeah, I already said that. Where you fake it to try to pass on that the customer or business partner is stupid, right? No, they all know. And in some ways or other, it will be fun, right? So never cheat or lie on that promise that we always, as we say, the best advice we can give to salespeople and marketers, always the promise, don't deliver. Yeah, so that one is, so don't forget that. The thing that you don't do is don't bite the hand that feeds you, okay? Because even though sometimes some companies may be tough, and I know this because I'm also very tough as a recruiter, as a teacher, as a consultant. But then they are there to guide you and to beat you up if you like for your good, right? It's what your parents tell you, right? So I mean, in a way, sometimes you don't appreciate them, but in a later time you realize they're there because they wanted the best out of you.
Yep, and I fully agree with that, especially this one point, which I guess to some degree resonates more so because I've been going through it, is the fact that I have to obviously watch over the priorities of others. In the sense where they have their own priorities. I have to respect that. I can't just come barge in, be intrusive towards them. There's a lot more organizational and structural discipline that's needed, especially for a marketer, contrary to what the stereotype might say. The fact that a lot of stereotypes would be, oh, you're creative, you can do whatever you want when you want. It's all very relaxing, it's very chill. But actually, on the other hand, it's the complete opposite. Processes have to be put in place.
Yes.
Operational values and management has to be put in place. Otherwise, you will never get your time across and use it efficiently.
So marketing metrics. A lot of people say, oh, marketers, you guys have good life, you live a good life, fly here, fly there, spend the money. No, at the end of the day, we have to be accountable. That's why I said I'm really about accountability. Sales holds marketing accountable. Marketing is accountable to the board. The board is not giving you $1 million, $15 million for one. I used to have $3-5 million budgets. Every cent that I spend, I have to be careful because I have to make sure it comes back, so to the company. So if dollar spend has to be 150, 170, 120, whatever. So it's never frivolous. There'll be times where we'll do fun. Marketing has to do this because part of marketing is also injecting fun in the experience. I said about this. So there will be silly things we do, but it is also energizing the team. Right? Because marketing people also are they get tired, they get bored, they get frustrated. So once in a while you have to inject them with some nonsense, if I may, And I've done that. I've taken my teams out to botanical gardens for a picnic and then opened beers and wines and then we paid for sport. That's all we did. And out of that, okay, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Then after that, boom, the whole board is full of phenomenal thoughts and ideas, right? And so that's how we have to do it.
It's a way to inject the creativity.
Yeah,
keep things light.
Keep things light. Yeah. And as a boss, never always. Okay, so now we're talking about people joining, right? Well, what do you look for in a boss? Okay, I think that's a good idea. So if you're looking for a boss, look for a boss who's challenging you, but also who won't let you get away with too easy. Because sometimes bosses are too accommodating. They're not good bosses. They are too accepting of standards that perhaps should not be there. So, find a boss who has drive, who has ambition, who's realistic, and then pushes you. And that's the kind of people you want, in your organization, ultimately when you become a boss.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair statement as well. Considering how, for example, I've had a few experiences now, I've definitely seen the environments within the company, within direct supervisors or leaders within certain businesses. And I guess this does go to say for some startups especially, they do end up starting out more as a passion or a hobby sometimes to some people. And some of these leaders might be a little bit more relaxed with the way and the manner in which the company transforms or it moves on ahead. Those that are like that, they will be very good learning experiences in terms of your people management as well as just learning basic concepts and foundations. But like you said, having someone to really give you that drive, push you where you need to go, and have that target and aim, I can't stress how important it really is. Because at the end of the day, that's where your real growth is going to come in. That's where you can really manage yourself and see what have I learned comparing
from where you started. Yeah.
And I think even especially at a junior level, you'll find that the exposure to growth is ridiculously phenomenal. Mainly because it's just always a changing environment in marketing.
Yeah.
And I think along with the fact that it's a changing environment, one question I want to ask you about the industry as a whole now is, obviously we're looking at hiring in marketing. Marketing has become extremely saturated now. I think it's very fair to say that there's a lot of candidates out there who are struggling to get roles. What do you perceive to be the case going forward? Do you think it's going to be easier to get a job and get hired, or do you think it's going to get even tougher?
Okay, if you look at the job ads, the pure marketing jobs, then nobody hires a marketing manager, right? Although sometimes the titles are all misnomers because they say you're a marketing manager and you're not doing sales, right? And so it's not really accurate. But what's happening is that marketing people and anybody who wants to get into this area has to have a commercial mindset. So I like the title Chief Commercial Officer, Head of Commerce, because it's all about commerce and that gives you a broader perspective. So when you are doing commerce is about trading and engaging with demand and supply. You have a bigger picture. So I think that part of it, right, whether it's going to be easier or not, is about what you bring to the table. Some people call this business development. You're a BD manager. Business manager, again, is a misnomer. People do different things. But if you're a pure business developer who's actually in charge of marketing, helping sales, then I think the roles there are many much more coming up. Okay, the ones who are just business managers or marketing managers who are doing administration of marketing, forget it. Okay, that one, leave it to the juniors because we can always get people to do it and the robots will do it. A matter of time. So you don't have them to pay them big bucks. The big bucks come. Okay, so now the quick question is, where do the big bucks come in marketing? Where's the money made? The money made in trying to take your companies to the next level with the processes and what I said and the ability to build teams. So when you become a marketing director, as I've been, you have to think broader. You are not there to just build yourself up. It's not self. It's about building the teams that even if you leave the company or you take on a higher, the teams function. And that's the biggest satisfaction you can get. And so that's where then when people pay you and ask for $1 million salary or whatever, it's not a problem because the value is definitely there because you have some traction that you can show. Okay, and I was telling Ritesh that many of these companies sometimes they hire too small. Companies should be more prepared to hire people for people. yes, we start them small. We can't let them become general manager, but we should hire people who have the potential to be general manager. Take over your job. Right? Otherwise, don't bother, because if they're just going to be there for the next 2 years, it's not going to help.
Right, no, and that's very fair to say, especially with the whole building up the traction within the company. Because at the end of the day, especially as a growth marketer, my role is to grow the company. Very simple, in the simplest sense, right? But at the same time, and like how I said earlier on, you will notice your own personal growth only once that's actually happened, right? You will always look back trying to find ways of, oh, how have I grown? What's my personal input? What's my personal benefit? You'll never see it until it actually happens at the company level.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the best way to actually judge your sense of growth.
Yeah. I think when we talk about, they use this term in HR, they call hypo, right? High potential, right? So if you actually want to get into the hypo unit or the recognition, the best way to get into the hypo is really bringing in the results that you are tasked to do it in a manner that is honest, credible, in a respectable way. Some people become hypo because they achieve targets that are beyond others, but not in the problem. So, and they're not sustainable. They're hypo for a while, then people will realize the biggest, whatever weaknesses they have, and then they get done. So you want to remain there, and that's how you.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that, especially with what I have to go through now. I can fully understand that.
Right.
Anyways, for everyone who's still been with us, watching, learning, and just enjoying, whether you're at home, on the go, or at work, thank you very much. This is all the time that we have today. Yep. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that whatever insights and whatever we shared will be helpful to you. Reach out to Ritesh anytime. Yeah, he's a conduit to me for wisdom. I don't look like an old wise sage with a long beard. I got some brains on. Okay, so thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for coming in. I'd love to have you on the podcast again another time.
Sure.
Again, once again, thank you to everybody. Be sure to share this out if you really were keen and really enjoyed it. And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.